Yes, for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News, I'm Mark Broom. Let's dive straight into the day's headlines. At least 65. That's how many COVID-19 cases have now been confirmed in South Korea. There was a massive surge on Wednesday, prompting the government to get even more serious about containing the outbreak. In a stunning about-face after weeks of denials, health authorities in China now acknowledge the new coronavirus can be transmitted via aerosol in confined spaces. Plus, the IMF calls the coronavirus epidemic the world economy's most pressing uncertainty, warning the outbreak has already badly impacted China's growth. Now, could what started out as a bit of a trickle here in South Korea turn out into being a flood? The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in South Korea has jumped to at least 65, with at least 16 new cases confirmed as of Thursday morning. Around 10 today were confirmed in Daegu and around 6 in Gyeongsang-Buk-do province. 2 of the newly confirmed patients, both men in their 50s, told health officials in Gyeongsang-Buk-do province that they haven't left their home for a month. They were transferred to the Dongguk University Gyeongju Hospital from Pohang Medical Center this morning, with most new cases confirmed in Daegu and Gyeongsang-Buk-do province. The spectre of community-based transmission is being raised. And with the number of new COVID-19 cases in South Korea jumping by nearly 50% in a single day on Wednesday, President Moon Jae-in expressed his concerns. He stressed the importance of boosting regional defense against further spread of the virus in local communities like Daegu and Gyeongsang-Buk-do province. Kim Min-ji reports.
President Moon Jae-in has called for a stronger response system to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in local communities.
지역사회 감염 대응 체계를 대폭 강화하여 지역사회에 확실한 지역 방어망을 구축할 필요가 있습니다.
The president made the remarks in a meeting with the education superintendents of South Korea's 17 provinces and cities, where they discussed quarantine measures to ensure student safety, with the spring semester due to start in the coming weeks. The president noted that mass infections can take place in any region, calling on education authorities not to lower their guard. Moon stressed that the most important role of the superintendents is to protect students, calling for more thorough disinfection at schools and preschools, and for enough supplies to be secured of face masks and hand sanitizers. For the purchase of those items, he noted that the government has provided schools with some $21 million.
코로나19를 계기로 올해는 학교 안전에서 국민들이 체감하실 수 있는 확실한 변화를 만들고자 합니다. 이제 코로나19로부터 학생들의 안전을 지켜낸다면 공교육에 대한 신뢰가 더욱 높아지고 믿고 맡길 수 있는 교육 환경이 만들어질 것입니다.
President Moon also called for cooperation from the public in following personal hygiene regulations, and he advised those showing suspicious symptoms to get checkups, even if they have no record of overseas travel or contact with infected patients. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The reported death toll from the coronavirus in mainland China has reached 2,100 as of Wednesday, while the number of confirmed cases has reportedly passed 74,000. China's state-run CCTV reported Thursday the death toll in Hubei province, the center of the outbreak, increased by 108 from the previous day, while the number of confirmed cases increased by 349. If true, anyway, this would be the first time the daily increase in confirmed patients in Hubei has been under 1,000. The report attributed this to changes in the country's clinical diagnostic standards, in which only those who tested positive for the coronavirus are tallied as confirmed patients. Previously, China said it included patients with pneumonia as confirmed cases, even if they tested negative for the coronavirus. Now making a big U-turn on its previous announcement that there was zero evidence to suggest aerosol transmission was possible. Chinese health authorities admitted for the first time on Wednesday that COVID-19 can spread through the air. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Chinese health authorities have admitted that aerosol infection could be one possible transmission route of the new coronavirus. China's National Health and Family Planning Commission unveiled new guidelines for diagnosing and treating patients on Wednesday, adding the virus can spread through air. It went on to say that the virus can be passed on through aerosol transmission if a person is exposed to high concentrations of droplets in the air in a relatively closed environment for a long time. China's leading respiratory expert Zhong Nanshan, who rose to fame after combating the 2003 SARS epidemic, also said the virus can be spread through communal sewage systems.
Overseas experts and I agree that people do not get infected by eating food with the virus, but by breathing in aerosol from contaminated feces, which still has virus in dry condition. So hospitals should also pay attention to this problem.
He said a smooth sewage flow in drainage systems is critical to reducing the number of infections. Last week, around 100 residents were evacuated from an apartment block in Hong Kong over fears the coronavirus may have been transmitted via the building's piping system. This came after 2 residents living on different floors but on the same vertical block of the apartment became infected with COVID-19. This immediately drew comparisons to the 2003 SARS outbreak, when there were over 300 infections and 42 deaths at an apartment complex in Hong Kong, as defective plumbing allowed SARS to spread through the building. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, with the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics just some 5 months away now, the COVID-19 outbreak is raising concerns about whether the world's biggest and most celebrated sporting event might just have to be called off. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Tokyo Marathon, scheduled for March 1st, will be held on a much smaller scale than originally planned this year in the light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Roughly 38,000 amateur runners will not be allowed to participate. Instead, it'll be limited to only 200 elite runners and wheelchair participants. However, the bigger concern is the 2020 Tokyo Summer Games that's scheduled to start on July 24th. As the COVID-19 outbreak is not yet under control, there are concerns over whether the event could even take place. The WHO says it hasn't made a decision on the matter.
We have not offered advice to the IOC for the Olympics one way or the other, and neither would we. It is not the role of WHO to call off or not call off any event. It is the role of WHO to offer technical advice.
According to the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee chairman, the committee isn't even considering canceling or delaying the event and will press on with the Olympics regardless. Citing a Japanese virologist, the New York Post reported on Wednesday that if the Olympics were to happen tomorrow, they would have to be canceled. The Tokyo Organizing Committee and the IOC have reiterated that they're going to continue following the advice of the WHO. It raises the possibility that if the outbreak spreads further, the Tokyo 2020 Olympics could be postponed or completely called off. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The International Monetary Fund is urging the global community to work together to contain the coronavirus, noting the negative influence it could have on the world economy. In its G20 surveillance note released on Wednesday, the IMF said global growth appears to be bottoming out, but the projected recovery is fragile. It said the expected increase in global growth to 3.3% this year from 2.9% in 2019 is a fragile one, as growth in advanced economies is lagging. It said the coronavirus adds to the uncertainty as China has stopped production and is limiting access to virus-hit regions. This will hit the tourism industry, product prices and supply channels of other countries. Now, with the COVID-19 outbreak gripping the international community, South Korean exporters that rely heavily on China for intermediary goods are feeling the pinch. Our Ji-young has more on how the country's exporters are coping with the tough new business climate they find themselves in.
A South Korean firm that produces the wiring harness that functions as a car's central nervous system relies on its Chinese factories to make most of its products.
Because of the novel coronavirus outbreak, our products are not being supplied normally from China. We can't meet the delivery deadline for our customers, including Hyundai and Kia Motors, because only about 50% of our factories in China are currently operating.
Hyundai Motor Company and its sister company Kia Motors have temporarily suspended some of their production lines again this week after reopening factories last week. According to industry officials on Monday, the automakers are halting their operations this week at some of their plants because they have a shortage of wiring harnesses and other parts from China amid the coronavirus outbreak. An expert says the most affected sectors appear to be the automobile and petroleum goods industries.
For the car industry, there are serious ramifications for the production lines in China. The petroleum goods industry is also expected to suffer as China is its biggest export market.
He added that if the disease lasts more than 6 months like the previous SARS or MERS epidemics, the automobile industry and the petroleum industry are likely to see a drop in sales of about 14% and 12% respectively this year. Petroleum product exports could drop by about 18% and auto exports by over 14% should the outbreak last more than 6 months. Another expert says South Korea's exports to China in February decreased significantly due to the logistics problems caused by the outbreak.
From February 1st to 13th, exports to China decreased about 20% because of logistics issues. I believe this is the direct effect of the coronavirus outbreak.
Experts say the government should provide enough support to those sectors experiencing economic harm due to the coronavirus outbreak. That support includes cooperating with the Chinese government, injecting financial aid, and adjusting customs and export procedures to minimize the negative impact of the outbreak on the economy. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Now, the Canada-based AI company Blue Dot actually warned the world about the COVID-19 virus back in December of last year, when the world wasn't paying as much attention as it is now. As big data plays a critical role in predicting and fighting infectious disease, South Korea is also making use of ICT in its battle against the outbreak, Lee Kyung-eun reports.
Data analysis has been at the center of South Korea's battle against COVID-19. One prime example is ICT-based contact tracing. The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention uses data provided by local telecommunications and credit card companies to trace those who may have come into contact with confirmed patients. The cooperation began following the 2015 MERS outbreak, which triggered an amendment to privacy laws and allowed the government to track personal information when national health is at risk. The government is also using data analysis to monitor potential patients. Since February 12th, all foreign entrants are required to report their condition using the newly launched app, Self-Health Check. They are required to check in once a day for 2 weeks, and those who fail to do so within 2 days upon arrival will receive a direct call from health authorities. The government said around 88% of entrants download the app. Experts say this smart monitoring system is critical in containing viruses in the early stages of an outbreak.
ICT-based contact tracing reduces time and mistakes compared to how it's done manually. This allows the government to quickly detect and isolate patients and minimize their exposure to others.
He said the system remains vital in the current transitional period when the outbreak is entering a new phase.
Now we're at the stage where the virus is gradually spreading into local communities. And in the beginning of that stage, it's still important that we find patients quickly and have them under control.
But he added if the virus spreads further, resources will need to be redistributed to minimize the damage and to focus more on the high-risk patients. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
The Pentagon has stated the issue of defense cost sharing will clearly be one of the agenda items when the Allies' defense chiefs meet next week in Washington. The Pentagon's chief spokesperson, Jonathan Hoffman, explained on Wednesday that sustaining South Korea-US relations is the crucial goal to boosting the alliance's capacity to defend the Korean peninsula. He added South Korea is one of Washington's oldest allies, adding that American forces first deployed to the country in the 1950s will stay on. The South Korean government has confirmed the defense ministers' meeting will be held next Monday in Washington. South Korea's producer prices in the month of January rose for the second month in a row, led by an uptick in agricultural and fishery product prices. The Bank of Korea says the production price index came to 103.93 last month, up 0.2% compared to the month before. Agricultural and fishery product prices rose 3.4% on month, and electricity, gas and water prices edged up 0.4%. Services increased by 0.3% on month, but prices of industrial goods edged down 0.1% compared to a year earlier. The producer price index in January was up 1%. Bong Joon-ho, the director behind the multi-Oscar-winning film Parasite, has told local reporters that his biggest satisfaction is that the picture earned such global praise and acclaim. He said he thought audiences might feel a touch uncomfortable with his depiction of what he called the bitter wealth disparity in modern society. Kim Bo-kyung reports.
It has been about a year since the director and actors of the film Parasite were last at this hotel in central Seoul, previewing the movie. With a tight budget, director Bong and actor Song Kang-ho had to work hard to promote the film, doing more than 600 interviews and around 100 question and answer sessions with the audiences. That hard work paid off as Parasite won heaps of praise and awards, including the Oscar for Best Picture. And the director and actors were happy to meet local reporters on Wednesday and discuss their globetrotting efforts to promote the film.
I am very happy to come back here after proudly presenting the amazing Korean movie, Parasite, to viewers all around the world, including the United States.
In terms of the plot, Bong said that he did not want to avoid writing about the social issues that the whole world is facing. Rather, he thought the movie should face them.
There are funny comedy-like scenes in the movie, but that's not all of it. There are bitter scenes that show the gap between the rich and the poor, and I did not want to ignore those aspects, not even 1 inch of it.
He added that it was such a pleasure for him that these aspects of the movie have been embraced by viewers around the world. Regarding the South Korean film industry, Bong shared his worries about how talented young directors with fresh subjects are being rejected. And he gave some advice to the Korean film industry.
The film industry in South Korea should not be afraid of an adventure. It should embrace more challenging movies instead of being scared of the risks that films might have.
Parasite will be made into a limited TV series of 5 or 6 episodes. Given that his previous movie Snowpiercer will be released as a TV series this May, Bong added it might also take a while for Parasite to be made. But he said those episodes will look at the dark side of society in much more depth. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, next in line for a policy speech at the National Assembly is the newly formed joint negotiating body, which has the unofficial translation of the Union of Lawmakers for Democratic Unity. That party's floor leader, Yoo Song-yeop, who will lead the Assembly's third largest negotiating bloc, just started his speech moments ago. The speech is expected to focus on reviving the economy, especially by introducing measures that can reform the job market and overcome South Korea's slowing population growth. He's also likely to stress the need for strong unions to bring forth political reform. The The joint negotiating bloc was formed on Monday after 21 lawmakers from 3 minor opposition parties agreed to join hands ahead of the April 15th general elections. Next week, lawmakers will begin grilling senior government officials during the last interpellation session of the 20th National Assembly. Now, China is revoking the press credentials of 3 Wall Street Journal reporters, telling them to pack their bags after the paper published a controversial op-ed, at least in the eyes of Beijing. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Yoon Jong-min. So, Jong-min, give us the details.
Sure, Mark. It's highly unusual for China to officially kick out international journalists. However, China says it is revoking the press cards of 3 Wall Street Journal reporters. Beijing's Foreign Ministry spokesman Gang Shuang told reporters Wednesday that the revocation was due to an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal titled "China is the Real Segment of Asia." It's a piece by U.S. academic Walter Russell Mate, and it's critical of the Chinese government for its handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. The spokesman said the editors used a racially discriminatory title and triggered indignation among the Chinese people. Those expelled are Deputy Bureau Chief Josh Chin and reporter Chow Deng, both U.S. nationals, and Philip Wen, an Australian national. They have been ordered to leave China within 5 days. The Foreign Correspondents Club of China says it is the largest single expulsion of foreign correspondents from China in more than 30 years and the first outright expulsion since 1998. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo denounced Beijing's move, urging the need for freedom of the press. He said the correct response for mature, responsible countries is to present counter-arguments, not restrict speech. In fact, the Chinese move is seen as retaliation against the United States. U.S. officials announced Tuesday that they would treat 5 major Chinese state-run media companies as extensions of the Chinese government. They are Xinhua, CGTN, China Radio International, China Daily, and People's Daily. Those outlets will now have to get U.S. government approval to buy or lease offices in the U.S. They will also have to register personnel lists with the State Department. 2 shooting incidents in Germany have killed at least 8 people and injured 5 others. German regional broadcaster Hessen-Schau says 2 shooting incidents took place at 2 shisha bars in Hanau, east of Frankfurt, late on Wednesday local time. Police say the motive for the shooting is not clear and the suspects are currently at large. The European Union has unveiled its new AI and data strategy to have more transparency and gain a competitive edge on American and Chinese IT giants. It's a comprehensive strategy which includes creating a single market for data, rules on AI, and plans for facial recognition. The EU emphasizes the need for privacy and transparency to ensure a secure digital environment. The bloc wants to have clear rules on the use of AI, all while helping European companies catch up with IT giants in the US and China.
Good morning. It's going to feel more like early spring again as we'll have a lot more bearable temperatures today. The lows here in the capital kicked off above the freezing mark and highs will get up to 9 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And in fact, most regions will see big temperature differences between lows and highs, over 10 degrees to nearly 15 degrees Celsius in some parts. So let's all dress accordingly. We don't want to catch a cold or get sick. Afternoon highs will hit double digits in most parts of the country under bright skies today. Meanwhile, central western regions are forecast to see high levels of ultra-fine dust, so keep a face mask handy. Meanwhile, a dry weather advisory is in place for many East Coast as well as Daegu. Nationwide rain is in the forecast from Friday afternoon, which could linger into Saturday, but there should not be any major spring cold snap for next few days. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Okay, before we go, we do have some news just coming in. Let me read it just so I have the numbers absolutely correct for you there at home. South Korean health authorities have just announced within the past few minutes, we just got this information, that 31 new cases of the coronavirus have been confirmed today, Thursday, and this brings the total number of cases in South Korea to 82 now. There really has been a surge in the number of cases over the past 48 hours or so. We'll bring you more details on that, though, during our next newscast at noon Korea time. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I've been Mark Broom. Until next time, goodbye.
The novel coronavirus is